Hello and welcome to the Reds Report, longest running Barnsley FC podcast, powered by the best of Barnsley and part of the Fans Network by TalkSport. As always, your three presenters for this evening. It's the man with many bricks in his hoodie. If you're watching on YouTube, it's Steve Andrews. Steve, and you're a bit see-through today, mate.
I don't know. I'll tell you what, as long as internet keeps going, I've given Amster some little bit of vegan stuff. See if it tries a bit better this week from last week. But I don't know what's going off with this. I don't know. Oh, wrong side. Again, I've just done that before. Yeah, I don't know what this is, but yeah.
Oh. And to bring some normality and validated opinions to the podcast, we also welcome Ian from the Tides blog. Ian, good evening.
Good evening.
We have to say we're going to talk about the Portsmouth result first. I'll ask Steve initially, and then we'll come back to Ian because Ian's got you had a bit of an experience, didn't you, Ian, on Saturday? You went to a different league and a different venue. So when we talk about referees,
and got the same result when it comes to referees.
Steve, it's a full 4 hours drive to Portsmouth. The team obviously was there after the Exeter away match midweek. Good result midweek. What did we thought, first of all, of the performance against Pompey?
Do you know what? It was that good a performance against Portsmouth that I can't remember a bleeding thing about it. It was that, I'm that excited, that pumped up with performance that I watched. It's things like that. I feel sorry for guys who did drive all that way down. Apart from probably Bobby Thomas, who had a really, really good game and looks as though he's a really, really good player. Please stay. I thought very lackluster, to be quite honest. Nothing inspired me anyway. Let's put it that way.
You've been listening to the Reds Report. We'll be back next
week.
Hey,
thanks very much.
It was. I think we sort of the midweek performance against Exeter got our hopes up a little bit. We found that form again, and I just thought Portsmouth maybe frustrated us a little bit, but everything that we tried and worked against other teams just wasn't working. I suppose what we can say as a real positive, obviously we salvaged a draw, which a draw away at Portsmouth we probably would have taken, at the start. Yeah. But it's that never say die attitude, isn't it? And I'm going to call it the Duff effect, because I think he expects, doesn't he, whether we play for 90, 92 or 102 minutes, sweat on the shirt, and that in the end got us that equaliser. You'll have seen the highlights, Ian. I mean, he just mentioned Bobby Thomas there, but 2-2, isn't it? And at 14-1, I'll tell you, my savings are looking great.
I know he's only on loan, but he looks a belting signing, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I think we said last week, he looks great, comfortable on the ball. Cundy could learn a few things from him, and he's finding the net as well. What's not to like, really, with him? And I mean, we said last week, didn't we? You take 4 points from 6 out of those 2 games. That's 2 places that we don't normally win at. Did well for 60, 65 minutes at Oxford. And it was probably about getting the result over the performance on Saturday, wasn't it? It was a matter of you didn't want to get beat. Keeps that unbeaten run going. So, yeah, might not have played so well, but you take a draw down at Fratton Park every day of the week, I think.
But it shouldn't have been a draw, though, should it? Let's be honest. Shouldn't have been a draw.
No.
Should have been a win.
No, absolutely.
If referee hadn't
blowing
too much.
Agreed with us on Twitter as well and said we were robbed and ref were poor as well. So they were fair enough to say it was a shocking decision.
And let's talk about the team first, because first start for Max Watters up front. Norwood, slight injury, so he started. I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because we're not going to form an opinion on a player for playing, 64 minutes that he played, and away Portsmouth, they frustrated us a bit. What I did think was interesting is that Connell came off for Russell. Phillips came off for Josh Martin. More about that with Steve later. Waters came off. Waters came off for Ollie Shaw. So all these sort of buys. Oh, sorry, and Jordan Williams came on. Barry Cotter came on for Jordan Williams. So the players that came in towards the end of that transfer sort of period, all got a chance. And listen, 76 minutes or 64 minutes, or half an hour tops. But it's good to see that they're all match ready, isn't it, Ian? Because sometimes, we've talked about it before when a player comes in, they've not played, they're not going to be ready by April, but actually all of them got at least sort of 25 minutes, 30 minutes, which is good to get that under the belt. Anybody stand out in that time for you?
Not for me, because I didn't watch it.
Well, that's the end of that conversation. It's a short show tonight, isn't it? Let's just call it a day now.
Thank you for listening to the rest. We'll be back again. Steve,
no, I think for me, joking apart, I think you just want an injury-free squad, don't you? So then Duff's got options off the bench. If we could, I'm not saying we will have 2 players for each position, but if Williams and Cotter are both fit, you've got that option in a game. You've got 4 or 5 strikers to choose from that you can rotate 2 at a time. I think, and that's got to be hopefully the luxury. We've not had it this season, have we, with the injuries? But then with Luke Thomas on his way back, Tedic on the way back, if we don't get any new injuries in a few weeks, he's going to literally have a couple of players for most positions, isn't he? Which is a great position to be in. So then you can bring people off or bring people on with 20, 30 minutes to go. Keep it all fresh.
Anybody stand out for you, Steve? I mean, to talk about the long throw, which it's a bit of a weapon if we can use them. But anybody stand out for you saying actually didn't play bad?
Yeah, I thought. I mean, obviously, the obvious with Bobby Thomas. I thought when Cotter came on, he looked tidy. Again, big throw. I thought, going forward, he looked to be all right. Perhaps needs a little bit more match fitness, but I thought he looked quite good. Didn't really see a great deal of Shaw or Waters, I thought. And again, that were down for me to just poor service. I thought Phillips, for one at game, he was just non-existent. Very, very few touches, no impact on game at all. He went off and somebody else came on who had absolutely no interest in playing and did absolutely nothing, as he always does. So in that respect, it strikes me that if you've got one player that's not playing particularly well, you can usually cover it, and that's that happens nearly every game. But I think last few games we seem to be having 2 or 3 players that just aren't quite. I mean, Jordan Williams has been a bit off this last couple of games as well, so it's nice to know he's got a little bit of competition. I've got to mention Collins. I would have liked to have seen a change in goal. I would have liked to have seen probably Eisted come in just to perhaps give him a kick up backside, because up to now every time I see him play, he just plays without any enthusiasm at all. Look on his face, it's as somebody's nicked his chips or something. I don't know. He just looks so down all the time, and he just doesn't enthuse for me. It doesn't enthuse any confidence anyway. So I still like to see a change at back in keeper.
Is there any for both on you of the sort of like new players that come on? Is there anybody you think I'd like to see them start? For instance, I know he wasn't. I mean, he only came on in the 76th minute. When Jonathan Russell came on in midfield, you sort of went, he's like
always a big lad.
Yeah. and is that maybe what we need? Because if you look at Kane, I know Benson's injured, but you look at Kane, Connell is probably more deeper, but they're all, this is like a tall, towering figure, ball-to-ball midfielder. Is that somebody you like to see more of, or maybe if you can shuffle it around instead of Phillips? Are you going to keep Josh Martin? How would you like them to see a line up on Saturday, Steve?
I thought you'd gone delirious then, mate. You've been taking drugs again.
It's inset day tomorrow. That's
inset day tomorrow. No, for me, as I say, last couple of games, Phillips. We can drop Phillips tomorrow for me and bring Russell in. Herbie Kane is doing a lot of running about. I don't know if Ian will agree with me. He's doing a lot of running about, a lot of challenges, but he's still, and it infuriates me, he just wants to play that Hollywood pass without looking up, and number of times he just hits it blindly, and it goes nowhere, or it just goes to their player, and it's so infuriating. It really is. So yeah, definitely, I think Russell needs to come in, and then it's take your pick for other midfield berth, and obviously Connell's got to play anyway.
Yeah. Let's look at what about is that the same for you, Ian? Anybody that you think let's have a look at this because we're at home as well, and I think that does make probably. I mean, a decent following to Hampshire, but being at home again, it feels like it's been a while kind of thing. Is that maybe a good time to put some of these new ones on to get the fans on board, as in to get that momentum going, or would you say you probably play the same and maybe start one and look at 60 minutes or so and put them on?
You could probably argue that without wanting to weaken the side too much, you don't want to suddenly drop points on Saturday. It's a good opportunity against Cambridge to maybe start Cotter and give Williams the rest. I agree. Stick Russell in. I mean, he was in a playoff final only in the summer, so it must be something about him in midfield, and we need that a bit of steel in midfield. And like Steve says, Kane does a lot of running around. He does look he looks to make a pass, but doesn't look a lot of the time. Do you know what I mean? And he's trying to drive us forward without actually just having that little bit of guile to look up first. And I'd like to see I'd like to see Shaw or Waters, strikers wise. That's no disrespect to Norwood, who's played really well his last few weeks. But I'd like to see what they can do. Maybe give one of them a decent spell, see what they can do. Because Waters, we've been waiting for him to get fit. I know Shaw signed a bit later in the window, but I'd like to see them get minutes.
Cambridge at home then. Let's talk about the match first and then what the club is putting on afterwards. Cambridge currently 23 out of 24th, so second from bottom, 26 points, a goal difference of minus 23. And just to put that in perspective with us, we've played a game less. We're on plus 10 and 47 points. So if you're a statistician, you say that's a home banker, although we know it doesn't always work out like that. And it's very much, Steve, isn't it, about us starting on the front foot and doing what we've done, like against Cambridge, Accrington, those sort of matches where from the start we just impose and play the game that we need to play rather than trying to counter what they're trying to do to us.
Yeah, I'd like to see us start like we did against Oxford. That first 25, 30 minutes against Oxford, we were brilliant. And that's the sort of thing we need to be maintaining now for longer, if not for all the game. Morale should still be fairly high. Like you said, we've got a lot of people coming back off injury. I think Russell and Tedic played beginning at week or end of last week in a under 23s or something like that. I saw something on Twitter. So let's have a little bit of a check up on bench maybe. I agree with Ian. I'd like to see Cotter come in, give Williams a rest. I'd like to see him give Cole a rest. Although Devante Cole's done really well, I'd like to see him have a bit of a rest. And like you say, Waters and Shaw maybe. But no, if we can keep starting as well as we can and get off to a good start, maybe get 1-2 goals up, maybe. You just feed off it then, don't you? And all the players will feed off that momentum, hopefully. So it'll be 0-0 then, will it?
And I take it that's same for you, Ian, isn't it? It's very much we're at home. We have to. I don't think I haven't looked at things. I don't think they'll be bringing many supporters. I mean, there'll be a few, but it's Cambridge. I mean, next to bottom of the table. They'll bring some. It's very much for the fans to do their job and get behind the team. And I know Steve will say we need to see that. You know what I mean? Like we don't want to start cheering because we're 1 or 2-0 up. It needs to start. So we all need to clap really hard when Time Rider's on, and that will get.
No, we don't want to clap to Time Rider at all.
I think last I heard they'd sold 500 tickets. I looked at their stats. I think the last 16 or 18 games they've only won 2. So they've been on a really bad run since about September. Since we last played them, they've gone downhill. But they got a decent home draw with Ipswich only last week. So we should be putting teams like that away. Like Steve said, the way we started against Oxford, the way we played against and controlled the game against Accrington, I'd like to see that mirrored on Saturday against Cambridge and dominate the game. Because we know very rarely if we go one behind, do we salvage anything out of it? We did on Saturday, but that was a rarity. We've got to score first.
Yeah. And also, which I forgot to mention earlier, but you've led me perfectly into it. At times, it doesn't really matter, does it, what our form is on our way from? Because there is that man in the middle, either in black, orange, or yellow.
Or woman,
or woman, or woman.
Yeah, or woman, yeah, that can have a huge influence. Just about the incident, as we'll call it. And I saw I think it was the EFL Twitter or something, where they look with the referee at 5 talking points in EFL, and the Barnsley one was one, where they sort of admitted, no referee wants to make a mistake like that. But it was a huge error, wasn't it? Because they talk about playing the advantage, but he blew and never gave us the advantage. We could have been, you could doubt, would we have scored another? But it was a perfectly good goal, just chalked off far too early by a very, very eager referee, wasn't it, Steve? Or have you got other words to put it like that?
I think when ball hit back at net, you could still hear whistle being blown, to be quite honest. He never gave that gap. I watched a couple of games of it weekend on Sunday, obviously, and I can't remember which game it were. And the play went on for a good 2, 3, 4 seconds after a foul before referee brought it back. Now, let's face it, we all know referees at minute are shocking. Usually it's just us moaning about referees down at Oakwell, but I think it's every football fan in country at the minute have got something to say about referees, and it's about time EFL did do something about it, because, and I've said it before, referees are costing people the jobs. They're costing the fans money, because the entertainment is they're killing it. They're killing the entertainment, and it's an entertainment business. So it comes back to, should you have Mr. X, who's I don't know, he's a bin man, not wrong with bin men, for 5 days a week, but then on a Saturday afternoon he puts his boots on and gets this a nice little silver whistle. It's about time now, because of the money that's involved in football. They need to look at referees, and they need to pull the socks up.
Ian, is there a call for managers are sort of not contracted, but one of their duties is post-match to do an interview with whichever TV, Sky, whatever, and a post-match press conference. Is there not a call for, or should there be a call for, referees to maybe talk about some of the decisions? Because I'd love to, and listen, if a referee comes and says, I got that wrong, and I know it won't change the outcome, and I know it won't be a goal, but it would just be human to say, I got it wrong, I blew too early, I apologise to the fans. And that would give more credit, because now, and I've said this before, and I will say it again, but it just feels to me that EFL referees are very much like the royal family. You're not allowed to moan. You're not allowed to interview them. They're a little bit in a bubble. They come out every now and then, and they walk around and they put their hand signals and they blow the whistle, and then they're gone again, never to be spoken about again until the next back performance. Isn't it about time that, for the money they get paid and the responsibility that they carry, and Steve is right, managers lose not because of a bad decision, but if they lose that match, look at Barnsley, for instance. If that would have cost somebody the job because we didn't get 3 points, or it meant we were relegated or whatever, isn't it about time that they took some responsibility for their actions?
This should have happened years ago. Exactly what you've all said. Managers have to come out after a game and explain decisions. Players sometimes have to, come out and explain what they did or didn't do. So why can't referees come out and be interviewed and give an account? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure even if managers can go in the referee's room and in the dressing room and ask them the questions. They're barred from doing that. It's like
that's why they surround them as they go towards the tunnel, isn't it?
They're protected from anything, any criticism, and they can have an absolute stinker and walk away and get another job next Saturday doing another fixture. just like the girl at Accrington has done, and I think she's even ended up in the Championship for some games. They're almost failure is rewarded in the terms of refereeing, and it's time they come out and, like I said, and we're a bit more human and would explain it, because that on Saturday, like Steve says, most games now they only give it 3 or 4 seconds, see if the advantage is played, and blow it back. That ball was in net 1.5 seconds later. A second later, he should have just given that, and then, like Dove said, he pulls it back for free kick and doesn't even butt the lad who sived him down. Who come from nowhere and made no attempt to play the ball and took the man out. So there's no consistency. So why can't they come out and answer that question?
Yeah, and I'd love to see. I don't know you might know more than me. I thought there was always an EFL observer doing like a scorecard on the referee. We don't get to see the scorecard. A referee has to give no reasons behind decision making. And I just think if it's the case like it stays now, well, he can make a mistake because there's no comeback, is there? Unless it's a blatant one, and then he might go to League Two for a couple of weeks, and then he comes back again because there'll be a shortage.
Yeah, we all accept that they're human. They're not robots. I don't expect them to get 100% of the decisions right, but you expect them to get 9 times out of 10 right. And the ones that they don't, why can't they be, genuinely asked about why did you make that decision? And if, like say, they throw their hands up, and you kind of takes the sting out a little bit. Yeah, okay. He still chalked it off, but if he could come out and explain it and say, you know what, I blew up a little bit too early, I'm sorry, I can't change it, then it takes the sting out a little bit as well, doesn't it?
But it does, because as a fan, it does make it any better. But you think, well, at least, because if somebody makes a mistake, if they just admit it, the damage has been done as soon as he blew full time or he didn't do anything else. So, listen, I don't know who's in the middle. I'm looking forward to a bit of a blog tomorrow from Tyke's blog, Ian, wink, wink, just to talk about the man in the middle or the woman in the middle to see what we can expect. And the club is, well, I'll tell you what, I'll just read something out what they put a couple of weeks ago. So it says, the club would like to notify supporters of a number of adaptations to the match day experience at Oakwell. We've talked about match day fan engagement. Following feedback from supporters via our recent fan survey and numerous fan engagement events, we are pleased to announce these changes. Get ready. So, when we welcome Cambridge United on Saturday, we will have a happy hour running from 1:30 to 2:30, with all items sold in our kiosks available on a 3-for-2 basis.
Can we jump in while you Can we jump in on each point while you're reading it? Is that all right?
That's the first bit. So, right. 3-for-2, 1:30 to 2:30.
No, I want to come back a bit if I can. Right. I'd like an happy 90 minutes from 3 o'clock until 4:45 is what I want. That's my happy not happy.
That's what you're going for, isn't it? That's what you buy your season ticket for.
Yeah.
Score a goal and get another one free.
That'd be nice.
You're not going for 3 Booker pies for the price of 2, are you? You're going for a Decantico hat-trick.
No, but it's a step in the right direction, I suppose. They're trying to get people there earlier. Will that create an atmosphere? I don't know, but at least something is being done. Enjoy on the concourse the early kickoff, flat screens TV. In the East End, there are some musicians that will be playing to add up to the atmosphere and the build up to kickoff. Could be a problem if you're watching the match. I'm not saying it could be, but if you're trying to. Anyway, happy hour will also be available in the fan zone with food, drink, and live music. Fantastic. Next adaptation. Meet and greet staff will now be situated around the turnstiles of each stand, and they will be on hand to answer any questions that you may have, regardless of whether it's your first visit to Oakwell or if you are a regular. Have we got any burning questions, Steve, you'd like to ask on Saturday?
Why is Martin still anywhere near first team squad? Answer that one for me. With your suede jacket on and your little smoking whatever it is when you stood there welcoming us in.
I tell you what, I see that and I think I get the initiative. I tell you what they ought to do, and every home match day, people can book a tour or whatever if it's their first ever visit. So people can take them through and saying, the players will be coming out today. Where is your ticket? Right. So you're going to be sitting there, and because if your first visit is a really good one and you feel like people are investing, then I think something like that could probably work. And these people that have had season tickets for 20, 30, 40 years, like, is a meet and greet. And then you have to wonder, without being disrespectful, if this is new staff, Well, they know the answer to a question. Who's referee today?
But it's like you say, if you go regularly enough, you probably don't buy a program. You might not even spend any money at the ground. You go in, your money go in the club goes in the season ticket. It's the kind of, say, certainly like at the top level, your day tripper fans who probably get to go once or twice a year, and they'll be in the superstore buying all the kits and spending the money. Most football grounds, it's the diehards who go every week, and they don't want to be there an hour earlier just to have another pie or whatever. They're going for the football and what they want to try and do. And I don't want to knock the club too much because they are trying to do something. They're just not.
Yeah, exactly. No, what I'm saying.
What you want is the match to come 10 to 3, the atmosphere ramping up so that when the away team come out, they're up again. God, bloody hell, the atmosphere, they're up again, up here. And a good 90-minute sort of atmosphere pitch side, not coming in an hour earlier. You might as well just go to the pub an hour earlier. And watch Premier League match on before game.
Yeah,
The hardest thing to change is somebody's habit. And let's face it, there are people that meet in the East Dean Club and they have 2 or 3 pints in the East Dean Club and they make the walk down. There is people that will go to the Mount and they will stay in the Mount and then they go to the Chippy. I'm looking at Steve here, and they get the chip butty and then they walk up them stairs and they make their way to the ground. There were people that might go to the Dove Inn or the pubs that are available. So I think it's very hard to change those sort of routines by putting an offer on. So I don't know if, and we've said this before.
And the idea, it's like, I get the fan zone, but the idea of standing out in the cold in February, drinking a beer in a fan zone when you could be in a nice warm pub with some football on the telly or some music on or something, and everybody's there chatting, like-minded people are chatting and in the warmth, you're going to choose that, aren't you, rather than be where the wind's howling around the back of the East Stand.
Of course you are, yeah.
And we go down to what we did before, and I just think, come 3 o'clock, blare some decent music out, maybe put some huge spotlights that move to create, like, I know we can't do but boxing where there's that ring walk where the lights go down, and you can't make it dark, but do build it up at 3 o'clock, because it's important that the atmosphere is there at 3 o'clock, not outside when we're clocking along.
But it's also allowing, like we've said, like a fan zone or something, whether it's in the Pompey end where you can bring flags, you can. I know we've discussed drums and all that, but let fans stand if they want to stand. Don't let it be over stewarded where they all end up fighting.
Yeah.
The atmosphere is not 2 hours before the game. The atmosphere has got to be at 5 to 3, and they want to be looking at that bit rather than buying 3 for 2. They want, because it's all right going in and getting you 3 for 2. And when the ref blows his whistle at 3 o'clock, the atmosphere dies, and it's like a bloody morgue for 90 minutes. That's what.
I'll tell you what, I am intrigued to know, though, when you said at the beginning that this is all about fanning it, for what fans have said in a survey and what fan clubs have put forward. I'll be honest, quite amazed that anybody even put forward the fact that we would have meters and greeters at turnstiles. Why? I can't get my head around that. Why? I don't want anybody to greet me and welcome me to Oakwell. Do you know what I mean? I can't quite get my head around that, to be honest. Asda, that's fine. What we got on a special, nice muffins in doorway, beautiful. But what? I don't get it.
Yeah. Here's your program. Let me take you to your seat, sir.
Wow. You know what? It'll be like they used to have in cinema back in the day when I used to go. When there used to be a young lady. Other men are available, obviously, with ice cream tray in front, down to the front. Do that instead.
Like I say, every home match day, if this is and put it on social media. If this is your first match, you can book a tour with a meet and greet to explain. Because some people might be a bit like, "Oh, where do I?" You know what I mean? I get it, and I think it's great that they've listened. I'd like to know where it's come from, because they sold 9,500 season tickets. So the number of people that might be there for the first time is not that huge. To have them on every turnstile, you have to know what's the cost involved, and people will be saying, well, couldn't we save that money and gone maybe and bought somebody else, or Martin out of his contract, or you know what I mean? Like,
for me, though, they should also be looking at going to, I don't think they do it, but going to local schools and dishing 50 free tickets out, and getting a load of kids in, because there's your next generation of fan coming. you see it. I'm talking at work. There's people who follow various clubs, and they've said their kids started going, and suddenly they're addicted. They want to go back, even if it was a dreary 0-0 or something, because they love going. You've got to. That's what they should be looking at, not meeting and greeting Steve.
It's an experience. You've got to create an experience, whether it's your first time or whether it's your, I don't know, 1,000th time of going. Each time you go and walk through them doors should be an experience that it's either music, all right, 3 for 2 on ale is fine because people do go and have a drinking ground, pies, etc. Yeah, if you want. But it comes back down to you want to be in your seat and entertained. Perhaps not necessarily just by the football, maybe by other stuff that's going off as well. You know, it's all right having penalty shootout at half time. I mean, at one time, let's face it, Toby Tyke used to pick ball up in centre circle, run down and score in away goal. And that used to get everybody up. It was stuff like, but you can't do things like that now because you might upset somebody. Do you know what I mean? It's that everything's just seems to have been dampened down.
I read this today, and not long after I had a year 11 coming in after a mock exam, and I know he's a big Barnsley fan, season ticket for many years, and I sort of said, what's your match day routine like? What do you do? And they said, I go to the pub. I go to the pub with my dad, with my granddad, and some other people. And I said, there's this or this and this on. And he said, look, we won't go because we get a pint cheaper in a pint pot.
How old's a year 11, if you don't mind me asking?
No,
about
he don't
12.
drink pints, but no, it's 15. But what he's saying is, my dad says it's better quality in a pub, it's cheaper, and it's a far better experience. Why should I stand? If you stand in the gangways, there's not much happening. You sort of stood on your own a little bit, don't you? He says there's atmosphere in the pub. Everybody's together. That's where we've been going since I started getting a season ticket 7-8 years ago. And it's going to be heartbreaking, those sorts of. I get it. There is a fan engagement tonight at Oakwell, which hopefully will, you can keep your eye on Twitter and the regular sort of sources will be reporting back on that. I think it's great they're trying to change it. I just think sometimes they said it's after feedback. I don't know if there's been much feedback for meet and greeters. Offers, I get it.
Yeah.
But then people will say between 1:30 and 2:30, if there is an influx, can they deal with it? Because lots of people they have food from the chippy outside the mount. They go to the burger fan because people are queuing to then hear it's
well, like
out.
you say it's in concourse in East Stand because it's a big concourse, you can get a lot of people in. But what about people that sit in West Stand? What about people that's in Pompey End? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not getting everybody.
No,
it's as though it's
in the West Stand,
all right
outside,
for some, but not for others.
Yeah, in the West Stand, if you have a drink, obviously you're outside because you can't take it past that point. So, listen, and this is not like, let's find something to moan about. I think it's more about, I think the fact that they're trying to change it is great.
It is good.
You need to look at the time of year that it is, and are people, if it's 2 degrees, are they going to come in to buy that extra? I don't know. I will be, and I'm like you. I don't care what it's like before 3 o'clock, but when the team come out of the tunnel, I want it to be absolutely buzzing, not clapping, buzzing, roaring, the lot. And I can't help but think that it's like a firework, isn't it? If we can be that spark, that will hopefully then set the team up. But we'll have to wait and see. Score predictions, lads, before we finish. Steve, you on the block first. Mads Anderson, but will be the first goal scorer, of course. But what's the final score going to be?
Final score on Saturday will be Barnsley 3, Cambridge 0.
Mads Anderson?
Mads Anderson, no, he's not scoring this week. Bobby Thomas is not scoring this week either, I'll tell you that. I think we're going to have one from Watters, one from Russell. Ooh, you heard it here. And Cotter's just going to throw one straight into back at net, just for laugh.
It's worth noting Steve not being correct in 7 weeks with his predictions, but big odds. Ian, Steve says 3-0. What's your guess?
I'm going 3-0, and how funny would it be if Mads Anderson scored an header at the back post? So I'm going
Yes,
to Anderson.
get in. Come on. Devante Cole's not playing, Carlo, so you can't have him.
No, I'm going. The same person I went for last time, and he didn't. And we haven't talked about him a lot, but I'm going for Liam Kitchen. Kitchen is going to get the goal. Kitchen is going to sink Cambridge. I'm sticking with it. 4-0, lads. 4-0.
Wow, I thought I'd been smoking something.
4-0. Yeah. So, well, we're all predicting a home win. Let's hope it is. Fan engagement is tonight. Thank you for listening. This has been the Reds Report, powered by the Best of Barnsley. Thank you to Ian from the Tigers blog, Steve. Look at him.
Steady. Be careful. Be careful.
And what I should say is thank you to Ian from the Tigers blog. Thank you to Steve, and we'll be back next week.